listening to Real Coaching Radio TV, building a positive network.
Are you in the entertainment industry? If you answered yes and you want to promote yourself, your passion, and profession, check out Creative Independent Artists magazines at CIAartists.com, endorsed by Kids Talk Foundation worldwide. Today's podcast is brought to you by Kids Talk Foundation, a global nonprofit organization providing youth advocacy, television programming, and training services in the United States, along with comprehensive medical and educational services for the developing world, most recently in Kenya, Africa, where Kids Talk Foundation provides a feeding program, medical care, and educational services to over 1,300 young people each day. Please help our youth and place your donation. Go to www.kidstalk.org.
Welcome to RCRNnow.net. We feature prominent coaches, psychologists, therapists, authors, and entrepreneurs from around the world in 7 different disciplines essential for life balance. Browse our channels in health, finance, relationships, personal growth, environment, and spirituality. Enjoy the show.
Welcome to the Mind, Body, and Soul Show on Real Coaching Radio Network. How would you like to attempt to demystify with us the realms of the mind, body, and soul to bring you a more holistic and balanced way of living? Healthier in all realms of the psyche, the spirit, and the body. Here is your host and executive producer, Coach Steve Toth.
Welcome everybody to the Mind, Body, and Soul Show. I'm your host, Coach Steve Toth, and also the founder of Real Coaching Radio and TV Network. And we have a very interesting guest today coming to us from Baltimore, Maryland. Her name is Leslie Shreve. Shreve. Okay, I'll go with that. She is a coach. She's someone that organizes people. Imagine that. And she's a speaker as well. And I don't know what else she does, but I know we're going to find out within this hour. And we have lots of people with us in Stickum as well in Block TV and several other networks. So welcome everybody to the show. So what I'm curious about, Leslie, is if we take away all those titles like an organizational coach, a speaker, perhaps a mother, a wife, a colleague, a friend, who knows what else. If we take all those away, what's left, Leslie?
What's left? What's left is a person who is passionate about productivity, who wants to serve others, who really wants to serve the professionals of this world who are completely overwhelmed with what's going on around them.
Got it. So what did it take, Leslie, to become a master and even have a doctorate in organization? What did that take?
I don't have a master's or a doctorate in organization other than my whole life being about productivity in organization. I'm actually a productivity consultant.
Hypothetically speaking, you do.
Lifelong being bent this way, actually, just being born this way and having been raised by 2 extremely productive parents. I think my whole life's background is about organization and productivity and getting things done, which is really what excites me the most.
So let's talk first about, because people are kind of funny. See, people are much easier relate to negativity than positivity. Have you noticed that?
I have.
Okay. And I think it has to do with this thing right here, the way it's designed. So let's approach it that way, because that's what seems to work. So what were the issues and problems that you had, Leslie, about being organized?
The issues and problems. Actually, I'm one of those people who didn't grow up with the issues and problems with organization and productivity. I guess, unfortunately for many, my story isn't a mess to success story. It's actually part of who I am. I may struggle with other things, but organization and productivity are not those. Although the truth is, when I was working in the corporate world for about 13 years before I started my business, I actually did a lot of the things that I advise against today. And even though I was organized and I was very productive, I actually used my fair share of planners, and sure, I had piles on my desk, only very few. And the truth is, I advise people against some of those things today, and I wish I had the system then that I have now and teach to other people.
Fantastic. And of course, we'll be talking about that shortly, but since I can't get you to talk about issues and problems of your own,
at least not in organization and productivity.
Yeah.
And my mom still tells stories. I just,
we'll just talk about it in terms of your clients. What are their issues and problems?
Their issues and problems stem from a couple of different places. Sometimes they have always struggled with being organized and staying productive. Sometimes I hear a lot of cases where professionals were organized at one point, and then there was a boom of information, and as we know, we're a very technology-driven world, and a lot of times it'll knock the most organized person off their track, and especially if they've become a mother or a father, or they have just gotten married, or something changes in their life, and it also affects their business world. A lot of times, if that kind of change happens in their life, and they were once organized and now they're not, it's because of overwhelm. And sometimes people start to overcommit, and then before you know it, they've overcommitted more time than they can actually afford to commit to certain things. And they really need to take a step back and decide, what are the most important things in my life that I want to stay, and what things really need to go because I'm not as effective anymore. I'm being run by my email inbox, and not getting enough sleep, and it just spirals downward from there. So a lot of their struggles come from an influx of information, also overcommitting too much time, and it gets crazy. It's like crazy town for them, and they really need to stop and see what's happening.
Yeah, so if I'm reading between the lines, what I'm hearing is people are not really in control, although they might think they are, but that's just an illusion. Is that accurate?
I think at one point they were in control, and then as that gradually slipped away, they might not have noticed. It's sort of like the frog in the boiling water. I think if someone had thrown them right into the bucket of boiling water, they'd realize it, but it takes them a long time to get there. I mean, we all go through those kinds of issues and circumstances and struggles with different things, and for a lot of people, this is one of them. And so suddenly they wake up one day and they're stressed out, they feel out of control, they're fed up, they're tired, and they don't quite know what to do to fix it. And they know that it's hurting their productivity at work because they're missing deadlines and late for meetings, and the list can go on and on.
Yeah, interesting. So you just took the next question right out of my mouth. So what are the symptoms? We're connected, what can I say? So what are the symptoms? Like let's talk about the symptoms so that people can perhaps identify themselves. What are the symptoms?
Well, a lot of the symptoms are, include the few that I just rattled off. Being stressed out and fed up with what's going on at work. At a more granular level, a lot of folks are buried in paper. So when, since I do my consulting across the country, I don't actually get to see or sit with every client in their personal office, but we do the work remotely. But I do have them fill out surveys, and we talk about what's going on, and I know how much paper they're dealing with. And that kind of stuff builds up, and that comes from a couple of different things. One is that they don't have any systems or trusted systems where they can actually store their paper and files, and they're not making decisions on their stuff, because as we all know, clutter is unmade decisions. So what's happening is a lot of that is building up in their offices, and it becomes a place where things get lost, and where things build up to the point that then it's affecting their tasks or their projects or their deadlines. That's one of the things that I find happens a lot with people. The other one, of course, is email. One of the symptoms is an overloaded, completely overflowing email inbox, which can get up into the thousands. I think the most I've ever seen is over 35,000 in someone's email inbox, and that's just going to crash the system. And that's not even including the folders on the left side of the screen in many of the email inboxes. Deadlines and tasks and things get lost in there as well because they scroll off the screen and then people forget about it, and if they don't have a trusted system for their task management, then that's another issue that comes up. And it can cost a lot of money, especially for someone who owns a business or is an entrepreneur. You know, if they're missing out on calling prospects or sales opportunities, that can cost them a lot of money as well. I've had people say to me, Leslie, can you help me stop apologizing to my clients for not calling them back? I've had people complain about the same thing with following up for prospects. So those are some of the things that can happen.
I know some of my assistant, she loves to apologize. And every time she mentions that to me, I'll just go, okay, so whatever.
Right. Well, that's a lot of people too. Say, I'm tired of apologizing to everybody.
Like, I don't think people really care when you apologize. I don't do it because I don't think people really care. What they care about is results. So exactly. This is really interesting. So before we continue, I just want to say that we're being featured on Block TV. So thank you for the webmasters at Block TV. That means, Leslie, that we're on the front page of Block TV's website, which means that everybody that comes to that website looks at our faces and listens to us, which is good news. So let's make it really interesting for them. So believe it or not, I like to be authentic, Leslie. So I'm going to admit to you that I'm struggling with some of these things that you are talking about myself, because we are at a growth of Real Coaching Radio and TV network where we kind of at the edge, and I'm sure a lot of businesses can identify with this. I really can't necessarily afford yet to hire a whole bunch of people to do the things that I really don't want to do anymore. It's like we're right at the edge of that, and the way this shows up in my life is I run my business now based on priorities because I can't afford to do anything else. So I kind of diverted myself to that posture. Oh, and I forgot, also the ones that complain. I take care of them. So the ones that don't complain may drop down on the list quite a bit. But it's every day I kind of run my life that these are the priorities that have to happen in order to keep the doors open, pay the bills, keep everybody happy, including myself. So like, for example, this show is a priority. You see, I can't miss this because I committed to you. Okay, so there's a lot of things like this, and you probably heard the phrase, you know, that we all have 24 hours in the day, and I've done this in the past where I worked my butt off. I don't do that anymore. And the reason I don't do that, meaning that yes, I could stay up until 2 o'clock every day in the morning and have 4 hours of sleep, but guess what? That doesn't work for me.
It doesn't work for a lot of people.
Because I'm going to pay for it in my health, and ultimately if I keep that up, I won't be able to do any of this. So what do you got to say to me?
Well, first of all, I agree with you. You've got to take care of your health first, or you're not going to have anything else left. So health is number one. And if you need the sleep of, 6, 7, 8 hours, I think that's what most people really do need. They might not be getting it, or taking it rather, because I think it's important that you take it. So I agree with you there. Secondly, priorities do run the show. What I want most, professionals to do is to make sure that they've got the priorities on their plate that are actually revenue generating. So when I talk to my clients about what tasks to pick and choose that go in their day, we're going to rank them in a certain way, not number them 1 to 10, but I mean in groupings of, these
and that's
are
what I do.
the
Yeah.
money
Yeah.
activating, it grows your business, it's revenue generating, or it's saving a ton of money, because there's a lot of people out there who are in the purchasing and contracting world who that is their job. They might not be in sales. But for the entrepreneurs and business owners, certainly they need to be spending their time on money generating activities. And then there's going to be a group of tasks that are important to do. They're going to keep the wheels spinning on the business, but they might not necessarily bring in revenue, but they might be connected to a revenue generating activity. And those are important. And then there's the it would be nice if activities. And those are the things that we could fit in, as long as we fit in the other two first. I think what a lot of people are experiencing these days are that they're putting in those it would be nice if kinds of tasks ahead of everything else, because of distractions, or getting caught up in the internet, or sidetracked, or getting interrupted in what they're doing, and not really having a solid plan. It sounds like you have a really solid plan in place because you know what your priorities are. I think a lot of people aren't really clear on all of their priorities. A lot of people in the corporate world certainly can get all twisted up in a lot of the activities going on around them, and so they feel like everything is a priority when really it's not. So I would say that you're on the right track. One of the things that helps people become more productive and more organized is time, definitely. Of course, we want more time, but it's time that we have to put in a little bit to make sure that we've got the right systems in place and that everything isn't spinning out of control. So it does. I always say the time is the secret sauce. And for someone who's feeling out of control, one of the things you really want to do is set aside or protect a little time to check and make sure that your systems are supporting you.
It's interesting because I have a different philosophy about time than you do. I actually, because I'm a student of consciousness, and when I'm in the present moment, like I am with you, there is no time. Time doesn't really exist. The only thing that I really need time for is so that I could meet you at a certain time in space to do this show, and same with others. The only thing I need time for is to make sure that when I call somebody, they're going to be there, and vice versa. Otherwise, I wouldn't have any use for time, because what I do and who I am is not defined by time. Does that make sense?
That's interesting. It does. It makes it sound like what you need a clock for is to be on time to meet people, and otherwise you don't need to look at the clock. But you actually
I don't have a watch.
Time.
I stopped. I have several watches, stored away. I do not use a watch anymore.
I don't either.
Because I don't need it. Because I know what I'm going to do next. I don't need time tell me, and I don't need to be reminded. I remember my days in corporate America, like you have, that I was watching the clock to see when it's going to be 5 o'clock.
Yeah.
See, that doesn't exist for me anymore, because I love what I do, and I know you do too. I can tell. It's on your face and it's in your energy that you don't probably ever look at, oh, when is it going to be 5 o'clock so that I can go home?
No, because I work out of my home.
Plus, you work out of your home, so am I. So we've transformed that. But here's the interesting thing. So my priorities are activities that are making money, activities that are potentially will be making money, people that are complaining, taking care of them. And then what's interesting is I have this screen that I created.
Okay.
And it's based on who I am and what I do. And if somebody tries to get a hold of me on the phone, via email, or from any of our websites, if it doesn't relate to what I do, I automatically move on. I do not waste any time or energy on anything that has nothing to do with who I am.
That's good.
Does that make sense?
Yes, because you're staying true to yourself, and you're staying true to your business mission and purpose.
So would you say that a big a big problem or issue for people is that who's running their lives is the world out there.
Yes.
The world is coming at them with all these things
Mm-hmm.
and requests, and they have no idea what to say no to or yes to.
Yes.
They don't have a reference point.
Well, without a reference point, and also without knowing who they are and what they're about and what their mission and purpose really is and what they value. They need to know. What I always tell people is you've got to know what it is that you are here to do and what you're excited to do and what you're passionate about doing. And when you say yes to those things, it makes it very easy to say no to everything else, just like you said, because you are crystal clear on exactly what doesn't fit into your plan. And that's where a lot of people, I think, get caught up, and it's reactivity. What you're saying about things coming at them, that's the reactivity that everyone is suffering from. Well, not everyone, but many people are suffering from these days because of not just technology, but just everything. It could be a ringing phone or anything, any interruption or distraction. And so they're reactive to that, but then they get off track because they forget, well, I should be working on this most important task of the day. And they get pulled off of it, but that's also because they let people pull them off. Sometimes it's avoidable, and sometimes it's not. It's true, especially in the corporate world. You might have mandatory meetings you have to go to, but the truth is, most people can design their business day more than they think they can. And that's one of the biggest mistakes that people make, thinking that it can't change. But it can.
Wow. Yeah, absolutely.
They can take control, and I want to help people realize that they can take control. A lot of people feel helpless to that, but you can take charge and make decisions about what you will and will not do during your business day, and what you will tackle and what you'll be proactive for and not reactive.
Right. So people may be asking the question, our viewers, and the question might be, so what is getting organized has to do with the Mind, Body, and Soul show, which is a spiritual show? Would you help them out with that answer?
Sure, because my company is called Productive Day, so it's more than just getting organized. It's really being more productive. It's about getting things done. So when we think about your mind, body, and soul, I can tell you that the folks who are spinning out of control or are feeling reactive to their day or not feeling as effective as they could be, that is coming from a place of stress. And it's also what's caused by stress, but it's also causing more stress. So it becomes a spiral that can be a negative one and can also affect your health. If you're not taking care of yourself, it's going to be hard to be productive. And if you're not actually getting things done and feeling good about that, that's going to affect your health too. It's all part of it because in our worlds, we really do want to be serving others and getting things done and helping people do what they need to do by using our gifts. And if we're not using our gifts and we're not serving the world that we're here to serve, then we're doing an injustice to ourselves. We're not helping anybody else, and we're not really letting our light shine everywhere. And that's just kind of, it's not good for us. So we really want to feed our souls by serving others and doing what we do best. That's how I feel.
We have an interesting comment here in Block TV, NAWD, whatever that means, says, especially when you live in the city, you feel like you have to do what everybody else does. Yeah, I call that the symptom of everybody is basically like the cows on the pasture, just following. There is a lead cow, and wherever he or she goes, everybody else goes.
Yeah, they're going with the pack.
Yeah. Nobody questions it.
Yeah, it's your environment.
And that has to do with, I think, what you said earlier, which is knowing who you are. Because if you know who you are,
then it doesn't matter what environment you're in.
Right. It doesn't matter what the environment attempts to tell you.
Exactly.
You should be doing.
Exactly. You're going to decide what you need to do.
Yeah, right on.
Yeah,
all right,
you're going to decide.
So let's talk about some of these solutions or tools that you have that you mentioned at the beginning of the show that seems to work for you and others.
Well, the solution so that people can be more proactive and more productive and have a more powerful workday and certainly feel more powerful in life in general. The solution, I think, is based in having those trusted systems I mentioned earlier. And the system that I created and trademarked is called Taskology, the science of getting things done. And this is a system that I built over the years, and I've been doing this 9 years, coming up next week, as a matter of fact. And combined with my corporate experience and now being an entrepreneur and business owner for almost 10 years, I get what it's like out there on both sides of that fence. And when I created this system, I had all of these executives and entrepreneurs and business owners and professionals in mind because everybody's suffering from much the same thing. So the system is comprised of 5 areas that really target the painful spots in everybody's day. So it consists of task management, time management, electronic document organization, email management, and just plain old getting organized. So those 5 areas, when you touch all those 5 areas in your workday, you have the ability to make a much more powerful workday. I say unleash the power of your most productive workday. And that's what I want for everybody out there who's feeling out of control.
Interesting. So what's the methodology that you use to teach this to people? Is it like a webinar?
Several different ways. Actually, I do a lot of private one-to-one coaching and consulting, which is most of what I do these days. But I do have several different ways to share the system with people. I have an actual home study program for Taskology that folks can buy on the productiveday.com website. So for anybody who doesn't have a ton of budget for this, might want to be a do-it-yourselfer on the topic and pick that up. I also do what's called a Taskology boot camp twice a year. I might be doing it more in 2013. And that's a 6-week boot camp that folks can sign up for. If they're on our subscribers list, they'll get the invitation for that and all the details. And that boot camp really runs everybody through all 5 components of Taskology so that in 6 weeks they're going to get everything that I teach, plus they'll get the Taskology Home Study Program for free as part of being a member of the boot camp. I also do team training, private team training for corporations and companies, mostly here in Baltimore, but actually I've done it in a few other places where folks are joining us from around the country. So it is a virtual 7-week teleclass and webinar series, and that's another way that folks can learn.
Interesting. So one of the things that I've noticed, again, just for myself, is email doesn't work for me anymore.
No? Why not?
Because I get hundreds of them a day, and we have way too many projects, way too many things that are going on. Some of our projects have 8, 10 members, and it's becoming more and more difficult to keep track of who said what. And when there is this one-way communication between one person and another person, the other members don't have the benefit of having that conversation. And I'm not going to take the time to forward all this to every member. I just refuse. So I've been successfully using, and of course that's my opinion, but it does work for me, and I know some of my team members are complaining that it doesn't work for them because people can't figure out simple concepts. See, and what I use is an online project management system. It's a task-based system.
What's it called?
And it's called Manymoons.
Okay.
And anything that you do, anything that you type in as a task for somebody, or you just want to share something, everybody that's a member of that project gets a copy of it.
I love it.
If you ever need to send somebody a document, I mean, how many times I heard people tell me, "Can you send me that Word document again because I lost it in my email? Like I deleted it." It's like, I don't have time for that, dude.
That's right.
So these documents we just upload to the project management system, and it's there for everybody to access at any time, 24/7.
It's great.
Same thing with, we have mastermind calls, and we record them and we upload them so people can listen to them, the ones that weren't able to attend. I mean, the list goes on. But here's the interesting thing is that, and this is about technology, and how people act like that they're embracing technology.
Mm-hmm.
But the truth is, what I've noticed is that they're actually lying to themselves and to
Really?
everybody else, because they're not really getting it. No.
So
They're not
are you
getting
saying
it.
it's because they're challenged with it and they're trying, or they're just shying away from it altogether?
There are simple things that for some reason people are unable to get. So let me tell you one of these simple things. Okay, so in this project management system, when you log in and you actually log into your project that you're a member of,
Mm-hmm.
there is an ongoing list of all the things that happened. Anybody that posted anything to the project chronologically shows up
Mm-hmm.
as people did it.
Okay.
Now there's a huge power in that, because, and this is what people can't connect the dots. So those are like conversations.
Mm-hmm.
So if you respond to something, it will be within that conversation. Like it's a running tree. Make sense?
Yeah.
So if 5 people said something about a document that was uploaded,
Mm-hmm.
it stays within that conversation.
Okay.
But guess what people do? Because
What?
their minds are unable to connect the dots, they'll respond to the document, but respond to it under a different theme. Because
Oh no.
so I don't know what to say. Okay, it's like there is the best way I can describe it, there is a general stupidity, is what I can say, that people have about technology that just, I don't know how to cure it. Same thing with, I think I had mentioned this to you, that we've done well over 10,000 shows.
Mm-hmm.
And people still have a huge challenge to figure out how to turn their cam on and what to do with their audio. These are simple things. This is like Internet 101. This is like Technology 101. It's like not knowing that in order to get a drink of water, you have to turn on the faucet. Do you get it?
Yeah. No, I know
What is that about, Leslie? Help me.
I was listening to your story and thinking about a similar situation. If someone is responding to that document but in a different string of messages in your
In a different stream.
management, yeah,
because it's
completely different.
too much. It's too much for them. I can tell you why. It's too much work to scroll down and find the conversation. They'll just go right to the top,
Mm-hmm.
and they'll just post it right there, and they're not understanding that the whole power of this system
Mm-hmm.
is to keep everything grouped.
Organized.
Because that way, organized, yes.
I mean,
There you go.
I think
We have arrived at your expertise.
The word that you used, the word stupidity, I was actually thinking lazy, because a lot of the people that I've run across in the world, in the business world, are doing the same things with email subject lines. Either they're leaving them off completely, or they're letting a string of emails continue far past the actual first topic of that email, because it morphs into another topic, and then all of a sudden they're talking about something completely different, but nobody bothered to change the subject line or to start a new string. And that makes it very difficult to follow along and stay organized and know which conversation is which.
Yeah, so guess what? One of the things that I use for me to choose if I'm going to open somebody's email
Mm-hmm.
is who sent it
Mm-hmm.
and what's in the subject line.
Exactly.
So if you don't put anything in the subject line, guess what's going to happen?
It's gonna
I
get
ain't going to
deleted.
open it. I'm not even going to bother. It's gone.
Yeah.
I'm moving on.
As you should. Because there's no purpose in understanding, well, why does this deserve my time?
Yep.
Why does this deserve to be opened? Is it worthy of my attention? You know, that subject line better be darn good, or it's going to be deleted and skipped right over. Absolutely. I know some
Yeah,
corporate
right,
folks
right
are
on.
not filling it in at all, and that makes it impossible to figure out where things are. It's hard.
Like you can't even search for the subject
No.
to bring it up. So
And I don't even
it's
want
like
people to
insane.
search that hard for things. I want them to actually have an organization in place so that they know exactly where to put things. But, you know, God bless the search button, because what would everybody do without it, right?
Yeah.
And it
I mean,
doesn't help when there's no subject line. Then you're lost,
Correct.
completely lost. And there goes lost time.
Absolutely.
And we don't need to lose any more
Yeah.
time.
Yep. All right. So on your website, you're talking about the 7 power steps
Mhm.
to peak
Peak.
productivity. I don't know if we have time.
Mhm.
It's guess what? 40 minutes of the show is gone. Did,
Oh.
did it seem like 40 minutes?
No.
It's like 1 minute, right? We just
Yeah.
started.
Goes by in a blink.
Yeah. So let's just. Would you like to talk about that, or do you want to talk about something else?
I can talk about power steps. I can talk about just giving general tips that can help people with their day-to-day productivity. I'm happy to share all kinds of.
Let's do tips. That may.
Okay, we'll do
help
some
them more.
juicy tidbits here.
Yeah.
Okay, well, let's see. First, I would say one of the key things is to simplify. Like you were talking about earlier, knowing your priorities, really knowing your mission and your purpose. One of the things that people do is accumulate too much because they're not sure about what's useful to them and what's meaningful to them. So I want people to
These are
simplify.
these, Leslie, are these the fence sitters?
Oh,
That's how they
good.
are? That that's how they are anyway in life?
That's a good question. I don't know if I would call them fence sitters as much as someone who is just not decisive. They could be sitting along a lot of fences. I don't think there's an either or to that fence. I think there could be more muddy waters. It's a gray area for them.
I want to show you
generally-
something.
Okay.
I want to show you something. So here's a piece of paper.
Yes.
So people tell me all the time, I have conversations with people to make a choice to do something. Because I think that you do something, I don't care how much you know, it makes no difference. Okay? So I go, okay, so people ask me, so when should I get started? Should I get started now, or should I get started after I do all this other stuff and blah, 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 blah? And I tell them this. Okay, so if you get started right now, fantastic. That's your best option. If you're going to get started tomorrow, this is going to happen to the thing that you're going to get started on. You're going to get started next week. This is what's going to happen. Next month, it will be this.
So what does that signify for you?
6 months
smaller
from
people?
now, it will be like this, and it will get so small that it disappears from your life.
So
And
that
this
the
is how
measure
people
of
end up do nothing. They talk about everything, but they will not do anything.
So what's diminishing when you fold the papers? Are you diminishing their effort towards it, their interest in it, the priority they're giving it? What is that signify?
What's diminishing? Yeah, what's diminishing is their excitement
Okay.
for getting started and actually living in the possibility of, wow, I'm really committing to this, and
That
the
was the
sooner
word
I
was
commit,
thinking. Yeah.
the better.
Yeah, commitment.
Because the sooner I get going.
Yeah, it's a lack of commitment. One of the things that Dan Kennedy talks about is lack of decisiveness in people's lives. That too many of our lives are completely void of decision. And decision goes hand in hand with commitment. You've got to decide that this is something you want, or want to do, or want to be, or want to have. And when you decide that, you've got to know the why behind it. It can't just be that you decided, maybe because it was what the herd said you should do and you were going with the pack. You've got to know your why. So you might say, I want to do this. Well, tell me why. What's the why behind it? It's got to be a strong enough why in order for it to stick and in order for you to commit to it and actually do it. And that's something I think is missing in a lot of places. So when folks are completely disorganized or buried in clutter, no matter whether it's physical or electronic clutter, it makes it that much harder for them to decide what in this pile of stuff is me and what isn't me. What do I want to do and what am I what should I have let go a long time ago? So I find that helping people simplify, and that being one of the first steps, helps them get more clarity. And we really need more clarity in this world about who you are and what you want to do and why. So that's definitely step one. You got to simplify. I always say that peak productivity starts there, with just getting organized and just simplifying what you keep, what you hold on to, and what you commit to. So that would
I love
be really
the word you. I love the word you used, clarity. By the way, because the opposite of that is confusion.
Yes.
And most people are very confused.
Chaos is another good word for it. Those are the things that
Yes.
I live to banish from people's worlds and work days, is confusion and chaos and clutter. Because confusion comes with also deciding what to do, not just what to keep, but what to do. And that's where, you know, a solid task management approach comes into effect. Now, it's true, you have to have your goals and your priorities first. You really have to know what you value and what mission you have and what purpose you have. But from there trickles down the goals that you're going to have for the year, and then the projects that you're going to take up that will lead you to those goals. And when you boil down those projects, it's going to be a couple of small action steps, and those are the ones that you need to get going on. Just like your folded piece of paper, if you don't take those first action steps, then it's going to disappear in a couple of days, weeks, or months, and you're going to forget all about it. And that would be bad.
Right, because all the confusion is the comfort zone. It becomes, people's state of confusion becomes their comfort zone.
Yes. Yes, and they don't want to stretch or get out of that because they're feeling comfortable with reactivity. That's what drives their day. Oh, I have to do this because it just popped up, or I have to do that because that person just interrupted me. Instead of knowing the power of no and standing firm in who you are and what you're all about and what you're doing today, and being able to guide people and say, no, I can't meet with you right now, but I can meet with you at 2. I find a lot of people don't negotiate their time. They just, people take it and they let him. So you can't be an enabler.
I was on a phone call today with a potential client, and she didn't put me on hold, but she answered another call while we were talking. And I didn't want to say anything to her because she's a potential client. So I wasn't about to coach her or do anything like that because I didn't feel appropriate. But I got to have the entire conversation that she had, at least her side of it, because I was able to overhear it. And then, you know, after a couple of minutes, she comes back and again apologizes. So I would never do that. So when I'm talking to someone, when I'm talking to you on the phone, I don't care how many other phones are ringing, I won't answer it.
Me neither. Yeah. I think focus is hugely important here. Too many people are trying to do too many things at once. I mean, even before you get me started on the topic of multitasking, I think it's only polite to focus on the, you know, be present, like you said earlier. Be present. You know, that's why we have voicemail. You can call people back. That's why we have email. You can get to that email in a minute. But be present and really talk to the person that you're supposed to be talking to right now. I guess it all depends on what kinds of emergencies are swirling around you for the day, and maybe you're waiting for an urgent call. You know, certain things aside, I would say that kind of focus is what everybody should really be doing, just because we want to finish what we start. You know, if you're going to start something, let's finish it.
Yeah, and I do that, Leslie. I mean, like yesterday, I called again one of my clients, and we're in the conversation, and then I get a second call, and I see who it is. And I've been trying to talk to this person for 2 weeks. I mean, we've done, you know, 3-4 phone calls, back and forward messages, and I'm just going to my client, I'm going like, you know, I got to take this other call. I'll call you right back. I mean, that was like an emergency. I mean, I don't normally do that.
Well, exactly.
But, you know.
Yeah, there are going to be exceptions. That's true for everybody.
So who's better at multitasking, men or women?
Probably women, but nobody should be good at multitasking. Please do not wear it as a badge of honor, folks. That's not.
Yeah,
why?
Why are women better?
Because really our brains are wired to only focus on one thing at a time and do it really well. So there have been many books written on the subject. One of my favorites is by Dave Crenshaw. It's called The Myth of Multitasking. It's a wonderful book. And and I've talked to him before, actually on a different radio program, just when I interviewed him and talked to him about his book, and I loved what was in there. Another one is called Your Brain at Work by David Rock. And they just explain that your brain is not wired to do that kind of multitasking. You really are diminishing the value and the results of 2 or 3 tasks if that's what you're trying to do all at once. Now, there's a difference between multitasking and switch tasking, as Dave Crenshaw explains. When we switch task and go back and forth very quickly between 2 tasks, you're losing time there. You're losing seconds that add up eventually, because it takes the brain a minute or 2 to regroup after switching from one task to another. It takes a minute for it to get back into the groove, and that's where, if you do that all day long, you're losing minutes and hours. So you might go back and forth very quickly to 2 or 3 things, but in that you're not staying effective because you're not focused on one thing at a time.
Yeah. Well, this is even a myth in terms of computers. People think that PCs, for example, are multitasking, and they actually not. The computer also does things one thing at a time. It just appears to us, because it does it so fast and puts things into memory, that it appears to us that there's all this stuff going on. And once you open up enough windows and do enough things, it will crash.
Yes, it will.
Because after a while, it goes, okay, so I put that in memory there, blah, 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 blah. When there's too much of it, it just says, I give up. I'm going to freeze.
That's true.
Which is what happens to people.
Yeah, our brains are going to wear out, certain parts of our brains are going to wear out with that kind of stress. Because, as David Rock explains it, you can't have too many actors on the stage at once. Because your brain only can have one actor on the stage at one time, or the other, the rest of it's going to fall apart. And you're not going to, it's going to hurt your memory, and it's going to wear out your prefrontal cortex, which is the place where we make a lot of decisions. And when people get exhausted, then that's when their effectiveness just goes way down, and your productivity plummets. Not good.
Awesome. Awesome. All right, so what about some other tips?
Okay, so let's see. After we simplify, I think another really good thing to do would be, actually, as you're going through the simplification process, maybe you're tossing things and finding things in your office, look for things that have action items associated with them. What you want to find are all the things that have a to-do or a task or a follow-up or a reminder associated with it. So that could be Post-it notes, pieces of paper, files, big pads, little pads, spiral pads, notepads, whatever, anything around your desk that really represents, oh, I wanted to do this. Because that's how people are typically managing their tasks and to-dos today. They leave things on their desks as the reminders of what they wanted to do. But they're also using Post-it notes and spiral pads and other planners and all these different places. And what I tell people is that is an impossible way to prioritize, because you end up scanning your desk like a radar screen. You're looking from left to right and going, okay, what was I doing yesterday, and what do I need to do now, and what did I forget, and oh, let me review all of this. But that's no way to prioritize. So you got to find everything. I call it the treasure hunt, because you're looking for these treasures of tasks. You got to find everything that you actually want to do. And of course you might find something that's so old that it's going to go into the trash can because the viability is just gone. So you're going to find a little of that too. And at one time it might have been important, maybe it's not now. So find the tasks that are still viable. Find the ones that you still want to do. And get those all in one place so you can actually start building a new list. And I always promote doing it electronically. So my system is based on Outlook. I have a not-so-secret love affair with Outlook. I think it's the best, but if you have something else, that's fine too. It's better than paper. Whatever it is, if you can do it electronically, build your list that way. And the other gold tip that I'll give you...
Okay, hang on, Leslie. So here's a problem. Okay. And the problem is, until you experience your computer crashing and not be able to recover your hard disk, you don't know what I'm talking about. If you put everything electronically into your computer and you think that's never going to fail, I have news for you. It will.
I never say it's going to fail. I promote backups, both online and
but guess
on a
what?
disk.
Yes, I do too, but guess what?
What?
Until it fails and people actually have the experience, they don't do backups.
Well, that's the problem. I know, and that's why I try to catch people ahead of time. and say, listen, don't trust your system. You've got to do an online backup or do a DVD backup or any kind of backup that you can. Yeah, no, I definitely tell people you've got to do the backups, especially of your whole email system and all of that. Yeah, no, I agree with you. But I think it's better to get away from paper.
Yeah, so, you know, because I learned my lessons a few times, I do electronic and I do paper. So I always have a book in front of me, and as I go through my day, things that I need to write down that happened, that I need to have access to later, I will write it down. I also have a whiteboard where I put my priorities for the day, and it's kind of interesting. It's a good feeling that, you know, after you did it, you just make it disappear, and then next day it's a new day. And I kind of found that it's in front of me all the time, like I'm looking at it right now, and I can tell you that I have improved in terms of getting things done by having it in front of me on the whiteboard. I can tell that I improved. It's looking at me and it goes like, okay, well, how about this? That's something I got to do, but I'm not going to do it until my priorities are squared away, and then if I have time, that's what I'm going to do next. Make sense?
That works. If it works for you, yeah, I would say that that's why there's so many different systems out there, because not everybody's system is going to be everybody else's best system. So if it works for you and nothing is slipping through the cracks and nothing is getting missed, then you're in good shape.
Yeah.
It all depends. I want to help the people where things are slipping through the cracks and it's not working. That's when we need to address a new approach.
Yeah, and here's another person in Block TV. X BoobTube X. Interesting names people give themselves, isn't it?
Exactly.
Says, I use a chalkboard. I am old school, and hard disks do fail a lot, and people lose pictures because of it. You know, again, I use online systems to store my pictures. I actually use several. So it's important pictures that I have. It's like impossible that I'm going to lose them all unless the entire internet disappears.
Right. No, the cloud is a great place to put things.
Yeah, and I just started just a month ago to back everything up to a cloud server every day.
Yeah, me too.
So that, you know, and I have backups here. I mean, I have backups after backups after backups, but that's just the way it is.
It is.
You know?
There's no way that we can trust that things won't crash. So, you know, for a person who's in business for themselves, let's say, maybe somebody in the audience out there is in that, you know, in that position, like many of us, if you lose your data, only 10% of businesses come back to business after losing all their data without a backup. So that's a little scary.
Oh, I'm being corrected here. It says the name stands for an all-time TV. Must be a TV show. Get your mind out of the gutter.
Oh, what was his name again?
X BoobTube.
Oh,
X.
yeah, that is a slang term for the television back in the day.
The BoobTube is the old name for television. Well, my excuse is I was born in Europe, and when I was growing up, we didn't have television, so there.
Well, there you go. That's okay. I know exactly what he's talking about. Yeah.
Okay.
Your excuse.
All right. All right. So, what else? We have a few more minutes. But actually, before let's make sure that we don't cut you short. So, before you give us any more tips, just share with our viewers how can they get to your website and what other information do you want to give out?
Sure. Well, the website is easy. It's productiveday.com, and you'll find tons of information there, including my blog and a way to sign up for my twice-monthly e-zine, which is called Workday Wonders. You'll have all the information there to sign up for that or see the boot camp that's coming up this fall, and my products and programs and services. So everything is there. I would recommend that if somebody wanted to start receiving tips or anything like that, to sign up for Workday Wonders and start getting that. Everything is there. So I can give you one more really juicy tip. And this one is on task management. So after you've collected everything that you're finding in your office for to-dos and tasks, reminders, and projects, and all of that, the reason I want people to go electronic, of course, is because it's much easier to prioritize and will save you tons of time, because once it's typed in there, you can actually move it from one day to another without really having to rewrite a paper to-do list. You'll just automatically be able to change your action date. But here's the key. When you look at different systems that have columns for due dates, it's spelled DUE. And I teach my system so that that date is an action date. So it's for DO, like the date you're going to actually do that task. So I want everybody to think about it differently, because if you're thinking about it in terms of DUE, well, it's going to pop up on the screen the day it's actually due, and then you're going to be completely out of luck. So make it so that your task list is really about when you're going to take action. So when you put a task in there, remember to use a verb, type out and articulate exactly what you want to do. Remember, tiny action step, not a project. And put in the action date that you're actually going to take action. Now, it's a target date, of course, because as our day is never static, our task list will never be static. So yes, you're going to prioritize and reprioritize as things change, but that's what you want in a very powerful task list. You want it to be strong but flexible. So make sure that you're thinking in terms of do, D-O, not D-U-E. Okay?
Okay.
And take
Makes
action.
Sense.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that makes sense.
it's all about taking action.
It is. It is.
It's what the secret was missing.
Oh, taking action? Right.
Yes.
You mean my mind can't create it all on its own?
No.
Oh, I have to do something.
No.
That's right.
Yeah, I have to do. Yeah, you can't just sit on your,
Yeah.
on your sofa, and just go like, wish it into.
And wish it into
existence.
existence. Yeah.
Yeah, that would be nice if we could do that.
That would be really great.
Yeah, but that's not reality.
No. It's not.
All right, so you've got another minute.
Oh.
Do you have another tip?
Let's see. Yeah. When you think about time management, it's really about self-management. So take control and protect more of your time during the day. Think about it in terms of putting up your time guard. It's like an invisible force field that people are going to bounce off of. But protect time and make sure that you protect time when you're not picking up the phone or looking at email. It's got to be quiet time, something that's uninterrupted for you. But you're the one who's going to have to be strong here. You have to put your foot down and say, for this next hour, I'm not going to look at email, I'm not going to pick up the phone, I'm not going to let people interrupt me. But you got to stay in control of that, because if you let somebody steamroll over you, well, then that's, there's naive and then there's just asking for it. So be careful. Protect your time.
Yeah. Right. So I just want to share a phenomenon, and then we'll let you go. This phenomenon that's really interesting. I've noticed in the past couple of decades is that the people that are going to get things done for me, the people that are already very busy, and the ones that are going to complain that they don't have time to do it are the ones that they don't do anything already. Isn't that an interesting phenomenon?
Yeah, they're the ones who aren't clear.
I just dropped my pen. Oh well.
Yeah, no, I
We'll
agree.
get it
They're
later.
the ones who aren't clear, so they're kind of spinning around with all this stuff to do and not really getting anything of importance done. Maybe some things. I don't want to say it that way, but yeah, you're right. A lot of the really effective people, the successful ones, are the ones who are really clear about who they are and what they're doing.
Right on.
I
Well,
agree.
this was very enjoyable, Leslie. I hope that it was enjoyable to all of our viewers. I'm sure it was. And they learned a few things in terms of your powerful tips, and that they'll go to your website and learn more. Thank you so much, Leslie.
Thank you, Steve. It was fun. Have a great day.
Awesome. Thank you all. Everybody stay with us. We're going to have James McPartland coming up in just 3-4 minutes with Unopened Gifts with a great guest. So stay with us. Thank you all. See you next week. Same place, same time on the Mind, Body, and Soul Show. Bye for now.
Today's podcast is brought to you by ObesityHotline.com, the silent killer, providing support and encouragement in the prevention of this rising epidemic. Featuring the Body by Vi Challenge. Is there a quick answer to the question? Go to www.ObesityHotline.com. You're listening to Real Coaching Radio TV, building a positive network.
Do you need a marketing and branding engine to drive?